Before we begin, I would like to go over a few things just to make sure everyone has the best experience while we're on the webinar. Today's session is being recorded, and the recording will be available once we finish the webinar. Also, all attendees are muted to ensure that we have a smooth flow of the presentation and to avoid any interruptions. We may unmute participants during Q&A sessions, but also feel free to use the chat feature and just drop your questions in there. Once each presentation is done, we'll go to the questions and you'll get responses to the questions. Our speakers for today are Ruth Kimani from Efficiency for Access, which is a co-secretariat. Ruth Kimani from CLAS, which is a co-secretariat of Efficiency for Access. She's also the program co-lead for the Off-Grid Cold Chain Challenge. We also have Yamini Keche, who's the Energy Efficiency and Emerging Markets Practice Lead at P Manifold. And we have Ravindra Dolare from Ecozen Solutions. I will now invite Ruth to welcome Yamini, and we can start our presentations.
Thank you so much, Lisa, and welcome everyone again. Glad to have you join us on today's webinar. As mentioned, our first presenter is Yamini Keche. So in 2021, through the efficiency assessment study for cold chains, particularly in 3 markets, Nigeria, India, and Kenya. And so sharing those insights with us is Yamini, who I will pass on the floor to proceed. You're welcome, Yamini.
Yeah, thank you, Ruth, and thank you, CLAS team, for the opportunity. Here it's raining really heavily, so I would like to just turn off my interview so that my voice is loud and clear. So really apologize for that. Yeah, hope I'm audible, loud and clear to everyone.
Hi, Yamini. Yes, you are.
Yeah. Yeah, so going to your first slide, please. Yeah. Next slide, please. Yes, so we have worked with CLAS on this study which talks about the cold chain infrastructure market assessment for 3 geographies, India, Kenya, and Nigeria. We were mandated and we were brought in with these 3 objectives for the study. One is to, of course, do the market assessment for 4 value chains. One is fruits and vegetables, fish, meat, and dairy. We were supposed to, and this project also aimed at understanding what are the current trends in the CCI deployments, what are the current opportunities that are available, what is the potential of this market, and what are the barriers that are hindering the growth of this market, and what are the strategies can be adopted to try to grow this market. Next, this project also aimed to establish and characterize the existing cold chain technologies available across the CCI infrastructure, identify what kind of business models are existing across, who is operating, what are the ownership models, what are the financing models available. And also it went on to identify what are the challenges in deploying of these business models, which kind of business models are implemented or they are being at a pilot stage. So that was the whole landscape around the business model and the technology assessment. Then the third part also went on to review what is the current status of the policy and regulatory frameworks that are available and in place for cold chain technologies, and what are the challenges, like are they getting implemented and enforced correctly, and which are in the planning stages that can help us identify, okay, where are the potential interventions that could merge or get integrated for the cold chain solutions growth. Our motivation was simple for this, like when it comes to investment in CCI. So CCI is a very high costing asset, right? So it needs a very high level of attractiveness, so which is desirable. More efficient supply chain can lead to higher utilization and hence overall system efficiency. So it becomes more attractive when the system is more efficient. So it becomes more attractive for investment. So there's more opportunity for investment. Additionally, it was also important that we ensure that the demand for this product is met, because just deploying the CCI would not be helpful, because as I move forward in my research and the findings that I would tell you, people have deployed CCI in these countries, but most of them is going underutilized. So there is no point in having a demand, which is not accessible and also affordable for different targeted stakeholders. Now, this means that the supply of these products must be supported by technology that is efficient in terms of price and performance, ensuring that the supply chain is optimized to meet the demand while being profitable for investors, right? So by taking these factors into account, we said that, okay, let's move ahead and see what kind of CCI technologies which are sustainable and energy efficient, which are available today and which can be like taken to a next level. So that was the whole motivation in terms of the investment, supply chain demand, and the supply of the technology as a whole. So a holistic approach and a holistic lenses were considered while deep diving into this study. Next slide, please. Yes, next slide. So this is a top level approach and methodology that we used. So as an approach to start with, since this was a very vast project, 3 countries, 4 value chains, so there were a lot of dimensions to that, right? So we said that, okay, we will go step by step. And initially we started by, doing the value chain analysis for the existing 4 value chains different. So we focused on what kind of CCI is available from starting from production to processing to the end consumer. So that's kind of the value chain analysis that we did. Then we said that across these value chains, what kind of CCI infrastructure is available, and in that infrastructure, what kind of technologies today are available, right? So we went on to identifying those technologies. Okay, like in fruits and vegetables, we have a pack house, and in a pack house, this kind of technology is being used. In a fruits and vegetable, this is the cold storage that is being used, and this is the kind of technology being used, right? So that is how we went. And then we went on to doing the market analysis of these particular technologies for that particular value chain. So that is how we did the technology assessment. And based on that, under the market only, we did the business model assessment, and also what kind of technologies on grid, off grid are available. That was also a part of it. And then lastly, we went on to examine what kind of cold chain policies and regulatory are available for these all the 3 geographies. On the right hand side, the diagram that you see is our methodology for doing the market assessment. Now, since all the 4 value chains are unique, we kind of factored in different the uniqueness of these and built this kind of a general model for this presentation for the ease of understanding. So there were a lot of inputs that were used here, to analyze what kind of demand will be there for these commodities, what kind of supply will be there. And then we estimated, what kind of CCI deployments would be there today. When we said we did this project in 2021, so we took the CCI deployments of 2020, like what could be existing. So these data points were really difficult for us to get in, like exactly what is, but we went through, primary and secondary research. We did like very rigorous, comprehensive stakeholder consultation. So we had 15 industry experts from India, 4 to 5 from Nigeria, and 12 industry experts from Kenya. So that was the kind of exercise we went into, estimating the CCI deployments for that particular country. Then we also used various market models which were developed to estimate what is the current market size and what is the projected market size. Now, the framework was developed to estimate the CCI market size in USD value from 2 perspectives. One was from the CAPEX point of view, like how much in terms of value, like how much of CAPEX will be required for deploying these kind of technologies. So that that kind of gives you an overview of the market size as well. And then there was a CAS perspective, cooling as a service, CASS, wherein the users of the CAS are paying on a per use basis and not owning the asset. So we did the market sizing from these 2 perspectives. One is the CAPEX and the cooling. Now, these 2 were identified as the most common business models, hence these were picked up. And as I said, these inputs were used in that particular model to do it. Next slide, please. Now, since this was a very, vast study that happened, I don't know if I'll be able to do justice to the market assessment that we did for this study. But I just picked up very key points to kind of talk today, which I felt are important. But there is more to this. There are more assumptions. There are more points to discuss on this. But here, as I say, just at a summary level, CCI market size for fruits and vegetables and dairy is higher in India, than the other two countries, because the local production of fruits and vegetables is more, right? So if you compare India, Kenya, and Nigeria, so India produces a lot of fruits and vegetables, right? So the existing season and also the population is, of course, more than Kenya and Nigeria. So you can see there's a lot of correlation between these three factors. Now, the CCI and dairy market is also higher in India than the other two countries, because in India, the milk is collected in liquid form, which needs to be maintained at low temperature, say like 4 degrees, which needs cold chain infrastructure like a bulk milk chiller. However, when you see in Kenya, milk is mostly imported in the form of powder, so which again limits the need of CCI, right? That's why in dairy industry, you would see, in India, there's a huge market for dairy, in India compared to Kenya. So that's also because the way people locally consume these products, so there's a consumption, production pattern, import, export pattern that actually defines the kind of market that you have. Now, when we talk about Nigeria, so Nigeria is depend on the import of chilled and, or you can say, frozen fish for its fish demand, where almost the entire fish supply goes through CCI. So whatever CCI today is available in Nigeria, it is mainly for fish, right? So most of here in the capex model, you would see that fish value chain, Nigeria has got the highest potential over there, because that's how the local region is positioned today. Next slide, please. Right. Now, as I mentioned, since the CCR requirement is higher in India, so your capex requirement will also be higher in India. So as I mentioned, CCI is a high cost asset. In Nigeria and Kenya, basically cash model is more prevalent than the capex model, right? So people, when I say cash model, so people are using these assets for a service. So they don't own it. So there is a cold storage. Just I want to explain how gas works. So there is a cold storage unit. People pay on a per hour basis or a per crate basis to store their produce. And once they store it, the produce, they take it to the market. So they use it for the service time only, right? So in Kenya and Nigeria, this is more prevalent, while in India, it is not that prevalent. Although it is coming up now in India as well, but still, if we talk about Kenya and Nigeria. Now, the total CCI need is also higher in India compared to the other two countries. In line, so that's a correlation. Like, so in line with the variation in the CCI market in each country, the capex requirement also varies. Now, I have not put the data points, so that it would be confusing for the audience. But if we go like country by country, I'll kind of explain you guys. So in India, when you see it as a country, as an individual country, the CCI deployments are at a nascent stage with less than 10% of agri-produce traveling to through the cold chain infrastructure, right? So in India, generally people prefer eating a lot of fruits, vegetables, or even milk, and basically perishables as fresh. So we don't have a culture here of using a lot of frozen or chilled kind of, apart from beverages and stuff. So while there are CCI that is present and integrated, so like from farm gate to your retail store, so continuously it does not pass on through the CCI. So that's the case with India. So in India also, if I have to talk specifically about the fruits and vegetable market, so in fruits and vegetable market, generally cold storage is identified as a key component, right? So people would not know what is a pack house. They would not know, what is a bulk milk chiller. So that is because not considered. So specifically in fruits and vegetable market, cold storage is the only component that is considered, but we are saying that there is more that needs to be done. And when we say that, only cold storage, now this also brings in the fact that that's why there are a lot of food losses happening in the country, right? So this is also because the post-harvest handling which is required is not happening to the way it should have happened, right? So currently in India, there is a 99% gap that exists in the first mile CCI. Now, first mile, when I say it is immediately after you harvest your crop, harvest your fruit and vegetable, it needs to immediately go into a cooling area, to bring down its temperature, right? So that's where, it lacks. Mostly you will see in India, these cold chain infrastructures are at retail level. So there's a missing link here in the first mile CCI. So apart from that, the gap exists even in the later of the supply chain. So if you would say there are, 80% gap exists at the dairy level, 70% at the fish level. So across the market segment, there's still gap. When I say gap, it is between what is available today and what needs to be created, like if in 2020 you need 100 cold storages, but in 2020 you just have, 10, then there's a gap of 90 cold storages, right? So that's what I'm calling as a gap. Now, when we talk about Kenya, Kenya's cold storage infrastructure is largely underdeveloped. Here,
Hi, Amini.
yeah.
Amini, hi. Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
Are we still on the CCI slide?
Yes, we are on that. So I'm
Okay.
going country by country. So here I just spoke about India and now about Kenya.
Okay, thank you. Some of the audience was confused as to whether we had already moved to another slide.
Yeah, no worries. So when we talk about Kenya, so in Kenya at overall level, like if you see here India, Kenya, Nigeria, so the graphs, the bars are very, very small, right? So this is because the overall CCI is very underdeveloped when we talk about these four value chains, that is fruits and vegetables, dairy, fish and meat. Generally in Kenya, you would see whatever cold storages today are there, they are mostly for, a small kind of fruits, vegetables and flowers. And this is mostly driven by export of, floriculture to European countries. So nothing that is related for local consumption or something, right? And when we talk about fruits and vegetables, I don't think people there consider, as per our research, having, cold storage infrastructure across the value chain. So that's where we are saying that, it's really not available. When we talk about developments that are happening, so now still, as I say that it is underdeveloped, but government is making a lot of efforts, right? They want to ensure that, okay, cold storages and you need to have first mile CCI. So government is taking some steps here. So just to point out, institutions like, Rockefeller Foundations through Yield-Wise program and protective food initiatives are supporting companies that provide cold chain solutions. So in terms of supporting, they kind of provide financing support. Now this foundation also, along with the financing support, they're providing technical assistance. So the whole point of saying is that while in Kenya it is underdeveloped, a lot of programs from the government are coming to scale up. Now, CCI, when we talk about the meat value chain in Kenya, is mostly non-existent today because of the cold chain solutions being limited, at premium retail shops only. So generally, people in Kenya don't have any kind of cold chain solutions. So there are still a lot of, perception-related challenges that are coming up in Kenya that's kind of hindering growth of CCI. So overall, here it's a mixed kind of between Kenya, So CCI overall across all the four value chains is very less. Now coming to Nigeria. In Nigeria, as I mentioned, it is estimated that more than 40% of the total CCI that is available today in the country it is for fish, right? You could see the 2047 number. So it is the highest among all the 4 value chains. So even the projected market size is very higher, right? So this is all the 3 countries that I'm talking about. This is the capex that is required, right? So you would need a lot of capex for the fish value chain in Nigeria, right? So only a small part of CCI is available for other value chains. So the whole point is of here is that which kind of commodities will need CCI going forward. So for India, it will be fruits, vegetables, and dairy. For Kenya, it will be dairy and meat to some extent, given that the government is kind of giving some provisions and incentives, and even a lot of donor agencies and foundations are coming in. And in Nigeria, fruits and vegetables and fish will see a comparatively higher growth, and hence a capex requirement and investment needs to go into these 2 sectors for CCI. Next slide, please. This I just wanted to give a snapshot of the analysis. Again, this is a lot of detailed analysis that has went into India. So all the talking that I was doing across the, this is kind of a CCI infrastructure elements, right? These are the components. So in fruits and vegetables, you have pack houses, cold storage, bulk hub, reefer vehicles, ripening chambers. So this is a snapshot of the kind of gap analysis that we have done for the country. So here is what we see in India. We have a 99% gap in the first mile, which is called as the pack houses. While you have so cold chain in India, cold storage is it's quite centric. So you would see a lesser gap in cold storage. So this is kind of a snapshot of analysis that we done. You guys can read the report in detail to understand the in-depth analysis and findings. Next slide, please. Yeah, this is just a separate representation of where the major gap exists today. So you would see fruits and vegetables is a dominant sector where CCI is used, apart from, of course, health sector and floriculture, so which is not covered in this study. So apart from that, from the major markets where we analyzed, I think fruits and vegetables, you would see a lot of market, and dairy, of course. Next slide, please. Yes, then quickly coming on to the technology side, here, yeah. So now when we talk about cold chain, now cold chain is kind of a temperature controlling supply chain requiring some kind of specialized technology to maintain a constant temperature to preserve temperature sensitive products. So currently, conventional CCI is energy intensive. It uses some climate polluting refrigerant and relies on fossil fuel, when we talk about reefer vehicles. For the lack of knowledge regarding best practices for handling perishable also leads to CCI inefficiencies. Hence, we say that it is important to understand that each type of perishable product has a specific storage needs, which are related to its physiological nature. Cold chain can help to reduce food losses for perishable produce, but inappropriate use of cooling may lead to higher food losses. So here you can see there are different kind of cooling technologies available today, and they cater to different temperature ranges, right? And its energy consumption is also different. The kind of refrigerant use is different. Its applicability is also different, right? So it is very, very important what kind of cooling technology should be used for your particular product, right? For example, freezing is necessary for transporting fish and seafood, especially over long distances, but it is inappropriate for some fruits and vegetables, right? So if you over freeze your fruit, after it is being, consumed, it will kind of be very loose and it will not be in the form to eat, right? So you need to understand what are the cooling needs. So if you fail to understand the needs, then the shelf life of the product is reduced. And the overall point of having a cold chain is to have your the shelf life of your produce really at an increasing rate, right? So therefore, thorough understanding of the cooling needs for different products is crucial. And this is also one analysis that we have done in our report, and you can have a look into it, like what kind of technologies are used. Next slide, please. Yeah, this is kind of a overview of different technologies that are available today and its applicability to different market segments. So when we talk about in India, so it's a electrically driven vapor compression technology is very much commonly used for cooling applications today. It dominates different constituents of the cold chain, like pack house. It's used in pack house. It's also used in bulk cold storage. It's also used in reefer transport to some extent, and also at the reefer cold chain components, right? Now, this can be attributed to its ability to work under varying ambient conditions. So, vapor compression cycle has its own advantages because of which it is more commonly used. In Kenya, I think, as I mentioned earlier, it's at a very nascent stage, but it is a growing market. There is a combined use of off-grid and on-grid storage technologies in the country, right? So there's a lot of room for innovation available in Kenya. And what we have observed is that in Kenya, people are preferring to adopt low tech, which are less complex technologies and also affordable, because there's also a skill gap in using the cold chain solutions in Kenya and as well as in Nigeria, to say so. So there these are slightly complex technologies. So what under our research we have observed, even from the stakeholders, we need easier, sustainable, efficient technologies, right? So this is something which needs to be taken note of. Next slide, please.
Hi, Amini. As we transition to the next slide, just wanted to flag that we are over time. So maybe you could wrap up the remaining portion of your presentation.
Sure. Now, when we talk about challenges here, I think India, Kenya, and Nigeria, I think one common challenge that I would highlight is about the awareness about how to use the cold chain CCI, right? So that's very important. So that is one key aspect. That first thing is you need to make your customers aware. You being the government, you being the OEM, you being the financing institution, right? So that's one key point. Apart from that, India specific, I think policy level support is available, but again, awareness is a concern. It's enforcement and right implementation again needs to happen, right? Technologies, I think one of our panelists today who is available from the Ecozen, I think they have an amazing technology when it comes to solar cold rooms. So they have integrated, solar-based cold rooms, which is a commendable product that is available in the market. So these kind of innovative models and its deployment is very, very important today. So to cater to, technological challenges. And when we talk about deploying CCI, as I mentioned, that these needs to be deployed near the farm gate. So definitely these are somewhere in the remote areas where accessibility, so unreliable grid and accessibility to 24/7 power is a challenge. So that's where these products like solar cold rooms really come into picture. So there are a lot of challenges when it comes to solar in general, the cold chain equipment. So that needs to be looked into. Economically as well, I think financing is a very long and always a consistent issue when it comes to, cold chain. So I think that is something which everyone needs to look into consideration. Apart from subsidies, how you give those subsidies, how you give those incentives, to what kind of technologies you give those incentives. I think that is very, very important. I think let's move to the next slide. So I just want people to look into the slides while I speak. In Kenya as well, I think various challenges exist. Financing is a major challenge in Kenya. What has been prioritized with us during the stakeholders. I think financing challenge in Kenya needs to be solved as soon as possible, and also skills. So people need to be trained well to use these technologies, and also innovation in technologies is important. And also here, next slide please, for Nigeria. Yeah. Sorry for that text heavy slide, but in Nigeria, just to summarize, you need to have, so there are a lot of issues when it comes to the enabling environment, demand side and supply side. So you currently in Nigeria, you can say that it's a blank area when it comes to, cold chain support over there, right? So you need to develop an enabling environment. So there's no government subsidy support, there's no financing available, even basic as electricity grid. So as far as we know and from the stakeholders that we have come to know, in a week, I think people just have like 2 hours of stable electricity. Otherwise, it's more on and off. So if you want to deploy CCI in Nigeria, you need to have a stable electricity system. Again, skilling is here a problem and awareness is also a problem. From the demand side, it's a fragmented and unorganized market today, right? There are customer preferences, so people don't want to go for chilled fish or frozen fish. They need to go for more smoked fish or something. So there are customer preferences also that are hampering the deployment of CCI in Nigeria. Also, there is no indigenous technology and manufacturing today available in Nigeria. I think people are mostly doing what we've understood is, assembling or minor kind of assembling of components, but nothing that is indigenous. So a lot of efforts needs to go on ground from that perspective. Next slide, please. These are some of the key interventions that are required in India. Here we are saying, to mainstream the deployment of first mile CCI. Currently, as I mentioned in India, cold storage is being considered as the only component in the cold chain, but there is more to this, I said. So you need to understand different points where you need CCI and accordingly plan well, like where do I need, and they need to be more farmer centric. So people eventually who will be using it needs to be affordable for them, accessible for them. You cannot be having a cold chain solutions which is far from these people, so they need to be really deployed at the farm gate. You need to understand what kind of financing they need, what kind of business models they will need, right? So that's why you need to also develop your financing and servicing model. So if you are a cold chain or a cold room manufacturer and you want to sell your product, along with that we recommend that you also give them a value added services, right, in terms of provide them with some kind of a financing model, some kind of a scheme, skilling. So you also need to skill them to use your product, right? So that kind of interventions are required. Then of course standards and labeling program you need to have at a national level. So I think first and foremost, I think if you compare all the three countries, India is far more established in terms of its cold chain infrastructure and overall support that's available from government and even manufacturers that are making. But when you talk about Kenya and Nigeria, a lot of groundworks need to be done even before the things that we have recommended into our report, right? So if you could just go on the next slide. Yeah, so like for Nigeria, you need to focus on developing in the first case, right? You need to start bringing that need of the first mile, and then you can follow the other, recommendations like access to financing, capacity building, local manufacturing, and policy support through incentives, some exemptions on the components, through improvised tax regimes or something. So you need to figure out what kind of, and these recommendations we have written in detail in our report. I would encourage everyone to read it. I think due to time constraint, I'm not able to explain what exactly we should be doing, but these are some top level points that you can really look into. Next slide, please. Yeah, and for Kenya, again, as here also, as I mentioned, the first foremost challenge was the financing. I think to grow the cold chain infrastructure market in Kenya, you would need a lot of patient capital. And this, again, I think there are a lot of, you can make use of climate financing because people are talking more about clean tech technologies. So if you want to deploy your cold rooms with renewable based solutions, I think countries can start using different financing available, the funds that are available to start deploying this. Again, as I mentioned, tax regime can be, you need to start restructuring it so that it reduces the cost, since Nigeria and Kenya imports most of the things. So that needs to be looked into. You need to also increase the processing and exports that will start, help you utilize the CCI that you have developed, right? So this is kind of recommendations that we would like to, make. These are very realistic when it comes to overall assessment of the report. So we haven't made something that cannot be done. So I would really encourage everyone to read all the 3 reports and its recommendations and give us even the feedback. And we'd like to take this conversation forward, like what things could be done, can we do anything jointly, so all those recommendations and things are welcome. Thank you.
Hi, Amini. Thank you for that comprehensive presentation. There are some questions for you in the chat. Specifically, there's a detailed question from Bas. And do you have access to the chat? Can you read it for the audience and answer it?
Sure. Okay, you want me to read it, Ruth? The question?
You can just
Yes.
go straight to the answer.
Okay, I'm just reading it. Just give me a moment. It's quite long. Affordability of CCI is considered. Okay. That is why it seems to be assessed based on the total production. Right. I think Bas, you're exactly. I think you are right that we have taken these kind of assumptions because it was very difficult to take into consideration. So total production, yes, it is total production and supply driven. Farm waste we have considered for each country, like what percentage could go waste. I think that is available in our. But this will not have major impact on your projections or this, because if you consider even 10% and other things, I don't think it would have implications on that. We would have considered this, but I don't think we got any concrete data points around it, and that's why we decided to go with this kind of an approach.
Thanks, Yamini. Bas, you can unmute and let us know if she answered your question well, or if you have any other thing you'd like her to clarify. Yamini, in the meantime, there's another question in the Q&A. Does the fresh fruits and vegetable volume in India include potatoes? And does the available infrastructure include potato cold stores?
Yes, it does. We have included potatoes. So generally the cold storage number that we gave, so in our finding, we found out that these cold storages were mostly used for potatoes, onions, and grains as well. So yes, the numbers which are available today, like when we did what is the existing market, it included potatoes, and projected as well, we have included potatoes and onions. So like 80% around, I think 80 to 83% of the cold storages available today are for potatoes.
There's a question from Richard, and he's asking, in Kenya, we have also seen cold storage. Is it included in your data analysis?
Yes, that we have included cold storage.
He's added for potatoes specifically.
Not like we haven't taken like one individual commodity for Kenya, but at an overall level, what kind of cold storage is for fruits and vegetables together. Yeah, and then there's this, what do the numbers on the scale represent? I think this was for the second slide. So they were the CAPEX numbers. How much CAPEX would be required? So this was for the audience, like, this was very, very detailed analysis and different dimensions, as I mentioned in the beginning. I don't think I could do justice to so much of market assessment in 15 minutes. So there's more to that, more to talk about it. I think please feel, free to connect with me post this, webinar as well. We'll be free to, answer your questions, get in your recommendations. Yeah, that is my email ID. And the second one.
Yeah, thank you so much, Yamini, for walking us through that and for the important insights that you've been able to deliver. I think in the interest of time, we'll move on to the next section where we'll be basically going over the Global Leap of Food Cold Chain Challenge. And so, as an introduction for those of you who might have joined later, my name is Ruth Kimani. I am a senior associate with CLASS based in the Nairobi office. And as I mentioned, was one of the colleagues for the Global Leap of Food Cold Chain Challenge. And next slide, please, Lisa. Basically, the OGCCC is an international competition that identifies and promotes the energy efficient, sustainable, cost-effective technologies that are designed for use by smallholder farmers and producers that meet cold storage requirements for fresh foods, vegetables, fish, and dairy products. And this is because this is informed by the fact that high quality energy efficient technologies do play a critical role in market development. And as from Yamini's presentation has highlighted, there still exist so many barriers that, that companies and service providers for cooling still have to pace through to be able to deliver this kind of technologies, and particularly for smallholder farmers who are located in energy constrained environments. And so we have found that awards are an important platform to allow global outreach to global actors to be able to develop cooling solutions and technologies that can meet the needs of this particular kind of underserved markets. And it also helps and supports companies to be able to launch new products in new markets, to be able to test their products under field conditions, and at the same time be able to, build local networks and partnerships in these markets that they are deploying their products, while increasing their knowledge on the market landscape and understanding better how to navigate some of the challenges as has been highlighted. So we had the first competition in 2018 for OGCCC, and a follow-on in 2021. And the table below basically highlights sort of like the changes or the differences between what we saw from the second round of the competition and the first. And as you can see, in 2018, we had a relatively few number of products being declared as preliminary finalists. So we had 10 of 29 products that were nominated, compared that to the 17 of the 24 products nominated in 2021. And in 2018, of the 10 products that were preliminary finalists, only 4 were successfully deployed in the field for evaluation, and compared to 12 that were successfully deployed in 2021 competition. And then in terms of geography, so in the first competition, all the products were deployed in African countries. For the second competition, we had an inclusion of India. And so overall, I think, speaking also to Yamini's point, we can see there has been some kind of evolution and growth in terms of the technologies we are seeing in the market, and in terms of like the number of active participants in the market. So there's been growth, even though it's small, but it's a good indicator overall. And also I think speaks to the importance of cooling as is globally recognized and accepted. Next slide, please. So the OGCCC basically structured and has two main phases, and that's the written nominations and the field evaluation. The written nominations, basically, it's where companies submit written nominations where they provide detailed information around the products they are nominating, the technical specifications, their understanding of the market that they intend to deploy their products, their distribution and customer acquisition plans, deployment plans. So all of that information is provided from this tool, and then undertaken through a review to determine from this information what products qualify to proceed to the next step, which is the field evaluation. And the field evaluation involves testing the technical performance of these technologies in field while they are being in use. And to support this process, successful participants are awarded deployment grants to meet some of the costs that come or are associated with deploying these solutions in the field. Next slide. Yeah, and why this is important is that it's really important for us to be able to assess product performance on field, to understand how it operates in real life environments, and as well even for consumers, who are potential buyers of this kind of technologies. So this is one of the key information that I think it's critical for them, and also for investors as well, because buying or investing in this kind of technology is a big investment, and so you want to be sure that you're investing in a high performing product or technology. And then through field testing, we are able to know how users interacting with these products, what challenges are they facing, how can the products be better designed to meet the needs of the particular user, in what use cases are these products being put to. We also are able to generate information around the business approaches that the companies deploying these products are using, and how that differs maybe across markets, and what extra support is needed to support these companies. Importantly as well, the data and the information generated through this process is really critical to be able to develop a technical foundation for future cold storage solutions field testing, because currently we don't really have, I would say, like robust indicative performance baseline for performance of cooling or cold storage technologies. So all these we find are critical, and all of this information, I think overall, looking at the cold chain market really is key in terms of what is needed to stimulate in terms of like the missing data gaps that we have seen in understanding the landscape of the market and what is needed to stimulate these markets. Next slide. So these are some of the cold storage solutions that we had in the field. As you can see, they do vary in terms of setup and where they are located. Next slide, please. Yeah, and this is to provide a snapshot for some of the cooling solutions that were deployed in the Kenya market. So in this second round, as mentioned earlier, we had products deployed in India, we had products deployed in Kenya, we had products deployed in Nigeria. And across all of those different technologies, basically, we saw that there was diverse use applications. But looking at Kenya, the popular use still is horticulture for export, with companies using walk-in cold room solutions to store broccoli, French beans, herbs. But we also saw like, use for meat, cooling meat, and also use for cooling fresh grocery for local consumption. And then in terms of users as well, there was a diverse range of users, from small market vendors for meat all the way to smallholder farmers that are within cooperative groups, being used in an eco-led setting. And then we had, of course, the individual farmers that were using these solutions. And then in terms of the business approach as well, so there's a diverse range of business approaches that companies are employing. So it could be a combination of these or one of these. So, but they do vary. And credit, where businesses are offering customers credit and then deposit with installments over a period of time, that seemed to be a popular business approach from some of the installations we saw within the country. And then also to highlight, like in terms of what is this, the extra kick that, companies are using in terms of like, this is the added value by you to make their products attractive to customers. So some of those elements included the fact that some of these solutions are mobile, and so they can be moved from place to place. And then in other settings as well, is that, for example, for the pay-go model, where we have that as part of the leasing, this technology also comes up with other accessories like, crates and sort of like a backup generator. And so companies, as you can see, are really putting in a lot of effort to make their technologies attractive to their customers. Next slide, please. So what did we observe? So generally, from the installations that we saw in the last round of the competition, is that, there's still a lot of technical complexity. There's a highly varied product design across companies, and in some cases, we did see that product specifications provided by companies did actually mismatch the actual product that was in the field. And so in a sense, that meant that even during the installation of remote monitoring system, we had to take longer, spend 3 or 4 days making sure that the remote equipment is either customized or the additional materials that are needed to be able to properly install these installations is obtained. And this was the same as well, even when we compare in the first round, that there are still there's technical complexity around for cooling technologies. And then in terms of value proposition, so where companies are seeing it as a selling point to their customers is that the potential savings, particularly around energy costs and transport costs. So these are sort of like, the leading points when trying to promote adoption of use of this kind of technologies. And then as well, ensuring you're having a quality and reliable solution as well is really key, and it's perceived as a leverage point for a lot of companies, and so hence a lot of investment that they are putting to develop these products. And then in terms of assembly, most products are locally assembled, although cooling and power components were mostly imported. And so actually, particularly for the cooling technologies that are installed or are deployed in African markets, majority of them actually do have to be imported, and because of some of these components, it actually adds up the cost of these products. And so it will really be great, I think, to Yamini's recommendation, looking at the tax, the import tax and duties that are applied to these technologies. And then in terms of the value chain, the main point of entry of cold room solutions for smallholder farmers is at the aggregator level. And this is just because, in terms of the demand, in terms of the cost of the units, and also for full utilization, I think Yamini noted that there were cases of underutilization. Then for smallholder farmers, since they have small parcels of land and lower production, then it makes sense for them to basically come together as a group and maybe in sort of like aggregated together and having a cold room deployed that, so that at least from as well feedback from participants and also what we saw seemed to be the entry point most feasible, particularly when targeting smallholder farmers. Next slide, please. Yeah, so this slide basically shows the winners and finalists of the 2022 Off-Grid Cold Chain Challenge, and this was essentially arrived at having collected field performance data from the field, and that was technical data around energy consumption, temperature, internal and external temperature readings, and considering humidity. So all of that, and we also did conduct surveys among end users. And so having collected all those bits of information, it was put together into a ballot document presented to a group of judges. And so, all this information was evaluated against a number of criteria, and one being the energy performance of these products, and then looking at the service delivery, the affordability, as well as considering the quality and design of these products, their suitability to the off and weak grid context, their usability, business models that companies were, detailed that they were using, as well as sustainability around like the materials that are used, and sort of like looking at what policies or protocols do companies have in place to deal with end of life or to deal with harmful products that might be, coming or be as a result of having these technologies deployed. And so all that information was compiled together, and then, having been evaluated, this is basically who we arrived at. And so, yeah, well done for all the companies listed here. Next slide.
Ruth, before we move to the next slide, I'd like to give a shout out. Some of the participants in the Off-Grid Cold Chain Challenge are actually on this call. So congratulations once again, and it's nice to see your companies featured on this list.
Great. Yeah. So we have the results from the competition available in the 2020 buyer's guide for Off-Grid Cold Chain Solutions. And this is basically a summary document with information on the rated product specifications, the performance metrics based on the field testing, sales contact details. We also included the, and so we do see the value of having or creating this kind of a resource to the stakeholders in the cold chain overall, because I think it helps investors, it helps companies and buyers meet, and will be crucial to keep on building on efforts to further, develop and build on this kind of resources. Next slide. So what were the sort of like the key learnings and takeaways from the competition? And so one of the learnings and takeaway was that though the coal market is immature, there is a small yet growing range of working cold room solutions with sophisticated designs that are appropriate for first mile use cases. And actually for most of the products actually deployed, their systems were adaptable across multiple energy supplies, for example. And so this is really encouraging for the market overall. And but overall they still need for and I guess that underpins the important role awards platforms do serve in terms of helping companies to be, or enabling companies to be able to test and further refine their product designs. And then in terms of the performance, so from the results that we measured from the field, so we found that the technical performance was highly variable overall, with significant deviations from rated specifications provided by the suppliers of these products. And therefore that, and basically, and part of it as well, I think, relates to also the available infrastructure that's available in terms of data collection. So the remote monitoring systems and sort of like, you know, the methodologies that goes into the evaluating of the performance of this kind of technologies. And so I think overall the learning here that there actually needs to be more concerted efforts to be able to further improve on the methodologies around how we evaluate and what are sort of like the criteria, or what are some of the parameters or the metrics that needs to be prioritized for or standardized across this kind of technologies that are highly variable. But then overall, yeah, it does shows that there needs to be more efforts to be able to generate more data to help build that's needed to, you know, help build increased confidence of investors and actors across board in the market to be able to generate to invest in this kind of solutions. Last but not least, export markets and other high retail markets present the only financially viable supply chains for current first mile cold storage providers. And so there does need to be an increased investment and supply chain development to act as a driver for increased use of this kind of technologies to support local value chains and increase food security, particularly for these developing countries. Yeah, so this is my last presentation. This is my last slide. Yeah, so I'll stop there and welcome any questions you may have before we move on to the next presenter.
Hi, Ruth. Thank you so much for that. There's a question in the chat box from Tapua, and they're asking, could we also get the documents used to evaluate the performance of the company's cold storage models to see what the judges took into consideration?
Yes, yeah, we can share that information. I think we have the paid evaluation methodology on the website. So yeah, can share that with you.
Also, Ruth, another comment from the chat is that Ian Tansley agrees strongly that field testing is important in developing such technologies and making sure, you know, they perform as expected.
Mm-hmm. Yes, we are in agreement on that. There definitely needs to be more investment and more field testing done, I think, overall. And Ruth, even as we look, yes.
No, go ahead.
No, and I think, yeah, even as we, just look to develop the market and also like in the process of building up the policy and regulation needed to promote and drive this kind of technologies, that would be important.
I was going to ask, the field testing for this competition had a few challenges along the way. What do you think could have been done differently, or how can field testing how can the process be smoothened out?
Yeah, so so one of the main challenges, I think, was around like the timeline available for the implementation of this work. And also the fact that companies were deploying these technologies, we were still in the COVID phase, and so that greatly inhibited the mobility of even the project team to be able to be on ground as these products are being deployed, and even as the remote monitoring systems was being installed. And I think another challenge as well is that, as I mentioned, given to the highly varied nature of these systems in terms of like they were differing so greatly technologically in terms of even the setup, and even where they were used, and some were really in very, very remote locations. So it just added a whole lot of challenges, particularly in that particular phase of installation and setup. And so I think it will be important in the future to make sure that actually to begin, I guess, even the data collection process after having identified, who are the products to be deployed, and they have actually been deployed, then begin the data testing for like the RMS units at that particular point. Make sure that even during data collection, that even as data is collected, there is regular checking and of this data, that it's correct, it's coming in as it's supposed to, and overall allowing for a much longer timeline to be able to collect data over a longer period of time, because I think it adds to the overall robustness of the results obtained from that process. Yeah, so I think those are some of the challenges and solutions.
Okay, there's a question from Paul Asikoyo, but I'm going to request him to unmute and ask the question, because I think there's some context I'm missing.
Thank you. My question is around, if you got an existing technology, that means it's an existing organization with more than 10 years experience in the market, does a change in business model or route to the end users and the customers qualify under the challenge?
Yeah, I'm not sure, but I think the requirements for the challenge basically is usually that, yeah, it could be you have already an existing technology that's already in use and deployed in the field. So as long as it has to be a technology that's been deployed, it is in use, and it's used for, as I say, for agricultural value chain. So that's the use case is limited to use of agricultural use cases, and so not health. And basically this cold chain needs to be designed with the, designed with the target of, addressing and reaching smallholder farmers. So like being used in energy constrained environments and settings. I think those are sort of like the main requirements, I would say. So I think change of business model that you're using, yeah, that's not really like a factor that disqualifies you from participating.
Well, I hope that answers your question. Ruth, I had a question for you. From the participants in the 2021 round of the Off-Grid Cold Chain Challenge, was there a unique use case that the team received?
So from the 2018, so we had, so still a lot of the use case revolved around horticulture. And so in one instance, we had use for storage for flowers, and then for fruits and vegetables. Yeah, so I think more or less the use cases we have seen in the second round align with what we saw in the first round. If anything, I think in the second round of the challenge, that's where we have seen new use cases, such as use of meat, cold storage for meat value chains. And so this was not, we did not see this in 2018 when we had the first competition.
Okay, great. With that, we can move on to the last segment of the webinar, and this is going to be a presentation from Ravindra Dolare, who is the president of Ecozen Solutions. And just a bit of background, Ecozen Solutions participated in both the first and second rounds of the Off-Grid Cold Chain Challenge, And we're really eager to hear what they learned from the experience, how their business is growing, and any other tips that he can share about succeeding in this market. Welcome, Ravindra.
Sure. Thank you, Lisa, for giving me this opportunity and represent Ecozen Solutions today in this webinar. I hope I'm audible enough for the participants.
Yes, we can hear you clearly.
Okay, great. So this is a great opportunity, and I always say that the global class has given
Ravindra, sorry, your sound is breaking.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is it clear now?
Just try, and then I'll let you know if it's unclear.
Sure. So I said the global class of grade cold chain competition has always given us a great platform and opportunity, especially in Africa through this competition. And I would like to put forward few pointers here. So at Ecozen Solutions, we are building a smart and sustainable future through deep tech, and we have developed technologies for agriculture sector. We started this organization in 2010 with a lot of problem statements that we found with agriculture sector, and we realized that it is a time to solve those problems. So can you just go to next slide? Yes. So long back in 2010, when we were visiting some farms here in India, we realized that the farmers were facing a lot of challenges towards irrigation. The water was not available on time. They used to go to farms late night or early morning just to switch on motors and get water for their farms. So situation was not very convenient for them, and they were complaining a lot that is there any solution available to this problem. So we being engineers realized that yes, this problem can be solved by using renewable energy technology. So we developed solar water pump as our first solution. We deployed solar water pumps on these farms, and farmers were very happy with the solutions. So today we are India's one of the largest manufacturer of solar water pumps, and we have almost third largest market share in the country. However, in 2 years of time, when we went back to these farmers just to understand that the impact of our technology on the irrigation, so they said that they were very happy, and in fact, their production levels have been increased almost 3 times than earlier because they have no solution for irrigation. But they gave us another very interesting problem statement that the income levels have not increased in the same proportion. So the production levels were increased 3 times, the income levels were the same. And we were a bit shocked with those statements. And we wanted to study more that what is exactly happening on the field. So when we went into deep realization, we realized that because of lack of access to the
Hi, Ravindra.
market.
Your
Hello?
sound cut out. Your sound cut out.
Okay, I will just try to make it better.
Okay.
Am I audible?
Yes, you're audible.
Sure.
You were saying that you had received feedback from the farmers, which shocked you,
Yeah.
that the income did
I
not go
will
up.
just switch off my video for a better clarity because there is a bit of network issue here. I'm just switching off my video. Okay. Yeah. So there was due to lack of access to the market, then lack of infrastructure, the food loss was very high. And because of that, their income levels were the same. So this is where we decided to develop a product to solve this problem. And this is how the idea of decentralized solar cold room actually came to us. And we developed probably the world's first decentralized solar cold room with thermal backup as a technology. And today we have patents on the technology. And I'm very proud to say that we have deployed 800 such units across the globe. And we have a presence in India, in Kenya, Nigeria, and other countries in East and West African market. And we are trying to develop different business model from this. Can you just click? Yeah. So during the journey of last 6 to 7 years, we realized that it is very important being a manufacturer to understand the segment better and develop different business models, because we realized that this technology makes sense on the supply side at the farm gate to develop infrastructure to the farmers. At the same time, it makes a lot of sense on the demand side to the distributors. So from farm to fork value chain, one has to cover entire supply chain so that the entire supply chain can become more efficient. Now, on the farming side, there are a lot of challenges even today to adopt such technologies, and I will come to those challenges later. But we realized these challenges in last 6 to 7 years. And then we realized that to cater to different segments like smallholder farmers, medium holder farmers, farmer producer organizations, the group of farmers, even the traders, aggregators, there are different customer segments. They have different demands. So we developed very interesting business model. The first model we develop is leasing as a cooling solution. So leasing as a business model works very well with seasonality of community, with aggregators and few set of farmers and aggregators where the commodities are highly perishable in nature and they have a value as well. However, when we realized that when we entered in Kenya and we realized that there are many smallholder farmers and they still need such kind of technologies. So along with our partner, we developed cold chain as a service model. So even in India and even in Kenya, for the community of farmers, we do cold chain as a service model. So there we charge them on a usage basis, per kg basis. And we realize that yes, with different segments, different business models, the blend of technology, I mean, there is always a possibility to solve such problems. So today, if I want to talk about solar cold rooms, we have product for fruits and vegetable segment. We are deploying this technology for fish segment. And there are many questions we get that what kind of sizes we have. So I always say that we have developed a customized and modular solution. Because when we entered into Africa market and studied different countries, we realized one very interesting thing that every region, every country have their own geographical challenges, climatic challenges, and one product may not fit into all countries. Even within country, there are different climatic conditions. So as a manufacturer, one should be ready with a lot of adoption and flexibility to customize the product as per requirement of the user. And this is one of the big challenge currently we are solving in terms of developing the technology. And this is where now we are entering into next step into solar cold rooms after having experience of 800 such technologies deployed on the ground. However, we as an organization believe also in impact. So yeah, next slide, please. So in last 8 years, we have deployed almost 1.2 lakh plus systems, including solar cold rooms and solar water pumps. We have generated 1.8 billion kilowatt hours of clean energy and 1.5 million plus tons of GHG emissions abated, which is one of our goal even in the future. We have irrigated almost 6 liters plus arable land. 35,000 plus tons of food loss has been prevented using the infrastructure that we have developed, and created almost 60,000 plus tons of storage infrastructure installed. Total farmers we have impacted till today, 1.6 lakhs plus farmers have been impacted using both our technologies. And we are trying to create this impact even greater in the coming future. Yeah, next slide. One of our case study was captured by World Economic Forum. We deployed this unit for fruits and vegetable segment in Kenya. And they claim that the farmer income has been boosted almost by 40% in initial trials, just by reducing losses, increasing shelf life of commodities. So the temperature range that we offer for fruits and vegetable segment varies between 4 degrees Celsius and above. Generally, we restrict it to 4 to 10 degrees Celsius. However, for fish segment, we have developed very specific solutions where it can be maintained even at minus 10 degrees Celsius. So there is a wide range of temperature solutions we have today. This is one of the best case study we found in the recent time, and we are very happy about such impact which has happened in Kenya with the help of cold chain as a service model. Yeah, next slide, please. I'm directly jumping to the challenges which are there, and this is one of the very interesting challenge. Awareness. Now, awareness, I'm talking about here at 3 levels. One is awareness at manufacturer. Second is awareness towards customer. And third is awareness towards policy makers. Now, when I say manufacturer, because it is very important for manufacturer like us to understand the different challenges in the country, the customer requirements, and then customize solution as per those requirements. And I will take this into 2 parts. One is climatic challenges, because solar radiation, this technology works on solar. And it is very important for someone to understand what kind of solar radiations are there, what are the seasonalities, what is the climatic conditions, and then the customized solution as per those requirements. And we realize this very specifically in Nigeria. We are realizing this even in Kenya and nearby countries, and we are moving towards a lot of customization. So that awareness is very important to make a great impact. When I say users generally, initially, they afraid to use cold room or cold chain to store commodities because they have a negative perception about storage practices. They don't know right storage practices. They don't have right education. They don't understand technology. So lack of awareness among the user restrict them even to adopt this technology, understand this technology. And it is very important for all the stakeholders here to come together and create that kind of awareness that yes, cold chain can actually enhance their economic conditions and give them better outputs. So that awareness is required, among education is required. When I say policymakers, because policymakers need to understand that this technology is not only making impact, but this technology is making economical impact, social impact. And recently we have seen in Africa and India, it is generating employment as well. So employment in the sense of having manufacturing facilities, running these cold rooms, operating these cold rooms, servicing these cold rooms, there are a lot of scope in terms of employment generation. So it is indirectly contributing to the country's growth as well. So the policies has to be developed to scale such technologies which are creating impact in all directions. And hence the next challenges I have mentioned, can you please click, which is on the policy side, that one of the biggest reason of restriction towards the scaling this technology is high tax structure. It is being realized that to import this technology and then to pay local taxations like VAT, it becomes completely unaffordable to the end user. They struggle to pay such high taxes. And this is where the financial viability of the technology is a big question mark today. So initially, to adopt this technology, some holidays toward taxation will definitely help. Second, I think Ruth has pointed out very well in terms of standardization of this technology, because currently it is seen that there are no specific standards in different countries, and then different manufacturers, different users have different specifications for the same user. So standardization will definitely bring some kind of confidence among manufacturers, users, and it will bring a lot of scale. So standardization of specification is also very much required as a part of policy. Secondly, like subsidies to the manufacturer, to the user, because initially it is seen that because tax structure is high, technology is not very affordable, it is at very early stage of market adoption. So it is very important for policymakers to understand that if there are subsidies available either to manufacturer or to user, the initial adoption will be faster. And once everybody sees the impact, then it can go on to the auto mode. So these are few challenges which we have experienced, we are still experiencing in terms of scaling up this technology in spaces, very specifically in export market like Africa. And some thought on this side will definitely help to adopt this technology at a very high level. And next comes the one of the biggest challenge. Can you please click, which is on financing side. So there are many users, they understand, they have some kind of awareness about the technology and impact. But because of lack of affordable financing, and even there are restrictions on the grant amounts as well, uh, this adoption of this technology becomes a challenge. So, for example, when we entered in Kenya, there were few users. They were looking for a kind of financing option because they are aggregators, they run businesses, and they were not dependent on grants as well. But they realized that many MFIs were not ready to provide them financing, and because of that, they did not buy technology from us. So we realized that MFIs, banking sector should come forward, offer some affordable financing to start with, and this will open a big market for the users. There are many grants available today to adopt these technologies, but again, grants have their own limitations and terms and conditions. If grant organizations, along with financiers, if they can club this together, because the financing institutions need a kind of a guarantee and assurity of their finances. If these grant organizations, the financings, if they come together and develop a model, I see that there is definitely a possibility of good amount of scale in respective countries. So a thought should be given in this direction by various organizations and various policymakers. How we can create awareness, how we can develop affordable financing and favorable policies to scale these technologies. There are still challenges today in many countries. Having said that, I would just like to highlight what are we looking at towards scale and future at Ecozen Solutions. Even though there are challenges, but we still have faith on opportunities as well. So can you go to next slide? So what we are trying to do currently, having understood Africa as a market at this point of time and the way things are moving towards sustainability, in-house we are developing thermal energy based innovations. So just to give the definition of thermal energy based solutions, that we use water based plates inside the cold room, and during the sunny hour this water gets converted into ice, and this is how we offer a backup in non-sunny hours. So we are developing our capability in that direction, and we are developing different cooling solutions, the smaller ones, the big ones, the walk-in cooler, refrigerator, many solutions, so that sustainable solutions can be developed. And we are connecting this to IoT. So we believe in a lot of data capturing and data dashboard, so that we can provide that kind of support to the users, to the policymakers, and they can have data analysis of this technology. Ecozen believes in another aspect, which is highly efficient product. So when we won first time in off-grid cold chain competition, we were recognized as one of the technically advanced product. So we believe in that. And every day we are improving our efficiency of the product. So we have a lot of in-house manufacturing in India, where we work a lot on software and hardware and electronics components. And we claim that we are one of the highest efficient product in the world today to capture solar energy and convert it into cooling solutions. This is one aspect where we are working on, and you will find a lot of new products coming up from Ecozen Solutions based upon TS-based innovations. However, we have another goal of sustainability. Can you please click? So one is innovation, second is sustainable innovation. So there is a lot of noise nowadays on natural refrigerant and adoption of the same to develop such technology. So we have already moved towards using natural refrigerants and developing solutions in that direction. So we are working on that, and soon we will have many products into that direction. Second aspect, we realize that it is also very important to develop environment-friendly components so that they can be reusable and recycled. So we are also trying to move towards a material usage which can be recycled, reusable, and make this technology more sustainable and environmental friendly. So this is another area where Ecozen is working on. And with the blend of innovation and sustainable technology, can you just go to next click? What we believe always is the impact. So we have already created a great amount of impact with current deployment. But in future also, we have taken a very aggressive target to make environmental, social, and economical impact, so that with the help of innovation, sustainable technology, we can still form that impact and contribute to the environment. So by 2030, can you just go to the next slide? So we have a goal here by 2030. Just go to next slide. We are planning to deploy 1.5 million such smart and sustainable devices on cooling solution side, on irrigation side. And there is another interesting goal. Just go to next slide, which is we are aiming to abate 45 million tons of GHG emissions and create that kind of great environmental impact across the globe. So, yeah, having said that, there are a lot of hurdles on the way. It is not only for us, but for all the manufacturers who are developing cooling solutions, and with right policies, with the right tax structure, and by creating awareness, I feel that there is a need in both agriculture and perishable segment, because the food loss is very high. Food security is a big concern today. And if everybody comes together, forms the policy, there is definitely a possibility of great opportunities and scale in India, Africa, and Southeast Asian countries. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity. And I would like to take questions. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Ravindra, for taking us through that presentation. And it's an amazing job that Ecozen is doing. And so for the audience, please feel free to put in questions on the Q&A if you have any for Ravindra. But as we do that, so Ravindra, as Lisa earlier mentioned, Ecozen did participate in 2018 in the OGCCC challenge. And as far as I know, that was basically the first time you were entering the Kenyan market. So do you mind walking us through your experience at that particular time, and basically how did you or how did Ecozen leverage their participation through that to be able to be, leverage their participation at that particular time to be able to navigate and be where they are currently in the market?
Yeah, Ruth, absolutely. I mean, that is one of the best experience of our life, that we participated first time in off-grid cold chain competition. It was, I think, year 2019. And before that, we did few units in export market, and we were having lack of confidence because of our lack of capability and focus on export. But I think we decided to participate in off-grid cold chain competition, and because of opportunity and find out what is there in Africa. So when we participated in that competition, we were not completely aware about the documentation process for the custom clearance activities. And even though we took a risk, we exported our unit. And when it reached to Kenya customs, we realized that because of few communication and coordination gap, customs were not willing to release our unit from their area. We tried to figure out solution, tried to communicate with them, but then unit was stuck there for almost 3 months. Our confidence completely went down, because we realized that probably we took a wrong decision by participating in off-grid cold chain competition. But in 3 months of time, finally, we paid a big amount of demurrage charges, almost $25,000. I still remember that figure here, after negotiating with customs. But however, we released that unit, and the entire CLASP team was very supportive. They still allowed us to participate into the competition. They shown that confidence. We deployed this unit with one of the farm near Naivasha Lake. The entire analysis happened. The technology was completely evaluated on the basis of different parameters. And fortunately for us, we were runner-up in the off-grid cold chain competition. However, that changed the complete fortune for us in Africa, because that was our entry into Africa with that kind of experience. After that, we received a lot of interest for collaboration, a lot of interest to form joint ventures in African market. We received a lot of inquiries. And today, probably in last 3 years, we have deployed almost 25 units in Kenya and few more units in other African countries, just because of this experience and the brand that has been created through off-grid cold chain competition. In fact, today we are talking to two well-known companies to form a joint venture opportunity, very specifically in East Africa. And we always say that most of the credit goes to off-grid cold chain competition because they gave us a platform and opportunity, and it helped us to create kind of brand. It helped us to understand the market, and even it is 3 years of association with them. Ruth and other team members are always supportive to us in terms of sharing those inputs and even cross-sharing feedbacks on both the sides to ensure that we are creating great amount of industry in Africa. So I think it was a wonderful experience, Ruth, to participate first time, winning second time, and still would love to engage more here.
Thank you so much for that, Ravindra. And it's really great to have seen you walk through that journey. And so from that process, so what are sort of like how are you, in what areas were you able to improve based on the learnings of your participation in that first competition in terms of not only your technology, but also in how in engaging with the market actors in sort of like even securing local partnerships and even basically developing that local network that's needed to like, because you've mentioned you've now deployed more than 25 products in the Kenyan market. So building up and developing that ecosystem that's needed to support that work of deploying and specifically looking at repair and installation support. So how have you, so if you could speak more around that, would be great.
Of course. Yeah, that's a good question. Thanks, Ruth. So what happened when we deployed our technology first time in 2019, we realized that there is a need of modularity because one size cannot fit all the requirements. So between 2019 to mid of 2021, we changed the complete design of the product. We made it more modular, more customized, so that we can cater to different requirements. So we moved from completely built up unit concept to a semi knockdown unit, very specifically for the Africa market. So that was one of the learnings. Now, second, we realized that when we entered into the market, there was actually a need to offer better service and ensure that these cold rooms are running well. So what we did two things. We started training, educating different technicians locally. So we hired few companies which are into refrigeration space. We provided them training at least for 1 year because it is not easy for anyone to understand this technology. So we took almost 1 year to train them on installation practices, service practices, and we are still teaching them because technology is changing every year. So the training, we have developed very good modules, and we do on-the-job training and online trainings for them. And not only that, there is another thing that we did very specifically in the export market is that IoT-based solar cold rooms, because we realized that it is not possible every time to go to the remote area and do the servicing. If we can do something on firmware by using better softwares, by using IoT solutions, so we develop many remote diagnostic and remote controllable solutions. So we do a lot of service options on the air without even getting it realized to the users. And in case of any mechanical issues, we understand them in advance and we take a lot of preventive actions as well. So this is where we develop different IoT modules, some best training sessions, and we have developed kind of service network in last almost 3 years.
Great. Yeah, thanks so much, Ravindra, and it's really great work that you're doing. So we also have a few questions from the audience. So Mr. Mechanic asks, what are the financing options you offer to your clients who are aiming to offer cooling as a service to smallholder farmers in developing countries?
Yeah, so currently, this cold chain as a service model, we charge our users, I will say, on a per kg basis. And what we do basically, we also help them to do a market linkage or a market connect. So immediately, the financing options are not available to them even today. We haven't figured out right solution, but we offer them market linkage so that they can recover their cold chain as a service cost for the cold rooms.
Great. And then we have another question as well, still from Makani, interested to know what's the average cost of the EcoFrost walk-in cold room?
See, it varies from size to size of the cold room, and it totally depends upon what is your requirement. So it is, I mean, not right to say me what is the exact cost, but if I will share my email ID, or probably you can write it to Ruth. If you can let us know exact requirement, locations, country, basic stuff, we will definitely help you to give you the indication or the price of the technology.
Okay, great. Then question from Adiwoye, what is the installed base for Ecozen walk-in cold rooms in Nigeria? And what is Ecozen distribution strategy for Nigeria?
Right. So currently, we are working with IFC Take Emerge to have a prototype in. So we have one there.
Ravindra, you're breaking up. We can hardly hear you.
Am I audible, Ruth? Yeah, am I audible?
Now you are.
Okay. So I said we have deployed one unit with the help of IFC Take Emerge program at location known as Lagos in Nigeria. Currently, that unit is under prototype. We are deploying few more units in Ibuza towards marketplaces. However, talking about distribution strategies, so we are looking for good partners in Nigeria for the distribution purpose, and currently that process is under stage. So if anyone is interested to be our distributor, we are willing to collaborate and discuss with them, but it is still open for us.
Okay, great. And then we have a question from Sonia, says, hi, Ravindra, when you say different cooling requirements, what is your current storage size range and temperature range of cold rooms? And then with your standard containerized solution, how do you realize that modularity?
So just to answer this question, so today we don't have like a standardized container solution only. So we have separated refrigeration component from the entire cold room. So today what we do is we understand the customer requirement and we then customize solution for them. So the standardized container-based solution helps because it is portable. And if somebody wants to do leasing as a business model, cold chain as a business model, then we have that solution. However, if there is any other requirement, we do a lot of customization there. And today we have different sizes, like as small as 1 metric ton, 2 metric ton, to as high as any size. So then the refrigeration requirement varies from size to size there.
Great. Yeah. Ravindra, thank you so much for answering. We have another question for you from Paul.
Yeah.
He asks, using the cooling as a service model, how do you ensure recovery of setup costs? How does it affect project duration to ensure full recovery?
So yeah, that's interesting question. So just to be transparent here in that direction, we are still figuring out right cost structure. Okay, because
You're breaking up again, Ravindra. I cannot hear you.
Ruth, am I audible?
Yes, you're back.
Yeah. I said currently with the help of cash model, we are still prototyping and it is very early stage for me to comment on recovery of the entire cost. However, we have forecasted that 4 to 5 years is a period for the entire recovery of the unit with the help of cash model. However, if you do this with the help of market linkage and club both cash plus market linkage, a recovery can happen even in 2 to 3 years.
Okay, great. I think those are all the questions.
Hi, Ruth.
Yes.
There was an earlier question from Mohammed, and he was asking, what temperature range for aqua products did Ecozen offer, or does Ecozen offer?
Can you just repeat this question for me?
What temperature does Ecozen offer for aqua products?
For aqua products, currently, see, we have up to negative minus 10 degrees Celsius as a temperature range. So up to that, currently we have offerings using solar and backup as a technology.
Yeah, and we have gotten a few more questions, Ravindra,
Right.
for you. So Irene is asking, how do you deal with enforcing a large number of cooling as a service contracts across different locations from an operational point of view?
Right. So just to answer this question, so we have operational partners in different countries. Like we don't operate all cold chain as a service model products. So with the help of those operational partners, we are like scaling up cold chain as a service model. So sometimes we do it directly, sometimes we have
Ravindra, we lost you. Do you mind repeating the last part of your answer?
Right. I said we have operational partners in different countries. They help us to run cold chain as a service model and scale at the same time. So with the help of our operational partners, we do cold chain as a service model in different countries.
All right, there's a question from Afolabi, and they're asking, what is the maintenance schedule for the technology, and is the repair or maintenance expertise available in developing countries like Nigeria?
Yes, so there are expertise available, and with the help of, like I said, right training, IoT solutions, it can easily developed. Maintenance schedule, because this technology is very sustainable. However, once in a year, we conduct a maintenance schedule in terms of understanding health of all the components. However, depending upon geographical locations, we recommend some regular hygiene like cleaning of solar panels, cleaning of room, and it is generated based on the basis of our IoT platform.
Ravindra, thank you for answering that. The question has also brought something to my mind. In the markets that you operate in, for example, Kenya and Nigeria, what level of skills development or training have you had to do for your team there?
Right. So as I have indicated already, like I will give you Kenya experience, because Nigeria, we have just started this prototype. But in Kenya, it took almost 3 months to train a person on installation practices. And once it is trained, they become expert. However, on service and maintenance, it is a regular process, because every customer location wise, the things are different. But with the help of our AI-based solutions, they get a lot of automated solutions. So it is a continuous learning process, but I will say it is 1 year of continuous training program which is required to make them better in terms of per service practices.
All right, thank you for that. There's a question from Victor, and he says, Dear Ravindra, it would be great to hear about your typical storage sizes and temperatures based on your extended experience on the field.
Yeah, Victor, thank you so much for this comment, and yeah, thanks a lot.
Ravindra, I think he wanted you to answer.
Sorry?
Sorry, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yes, I think Victor had wanted to know about your typical storage sizes and temperature range.
Right. So temperature range I have indicated already. It varies between -10°C and it goes towards positive temperature as high as plus 15°C. And when it comes to typical sizes, so as I indicated, it starts with smallest like 1 metric ton, and it can be customized to any size like 2 metric tons, 5 metric ton, 10, 50, 100. So customization is absolutely possible as per the need of the user.
Great. And with that, we are wrapping up the Q&A segment of our webinar today. Thank you everyone for staying with us. We know that 2 hours is a long time, especially during a working day. So we thank you for staying on that line. Before we close, I'd like to request that you fill out a short poll just so that we can gauge the effectiveness and usefulness of our webinar and how we can plan for more sessions like this. And also just a reminder that I'll be sharing the presentations and the recording, and you'll be able to find the contacts for each of the presenters in case you wanted to follow up with them.